viewers. You're welcome once again to Edfields podcast. And I hope today's episode will give you another insight into some legal framework in Ghana. Now, we are in an era where digital platform dominates communication, and it seems there is a higher risk of reputational harm due to defamatory statements. So today's episode seeks to demystify defamation and its legal framework, and hopefully we will be guided on how to speak and publish certain information. Now, to discuss this very important topic, I have a host of lawyers here with me, and hopefully they can give us some legal framework of this topic. I have Derek. Derek, you're welcome.
Thank you, Jasmine.
I have Prince. Prince, you're very much
Thank
welcome. And of course, we have Angela. Angela, you're welcome.
Thank you, Jasmine.
Well, Prince, just a brief, what is defamation and why is defamation so important?
Okay, so defamation is just, let me say, an area of law or a provision of law that tries to balance two different rights. So, a person's right to freedom of speech and another person's right to protection of his reputation. So you find a situation where someone has used so many years to build an enviable reputation, and then another person thinks that because he has freedom to express himself or herself, he or she can say something or do something or publish something to tarnish the person's image, where that publication affects the person's image, or the person thinks that whatever has been published or said has, let me say, destroyed, affected, or in some way, somehow caused him to be ridiculed in the eyes of the public, then we will see that the person has been defamed or the person's image has been tarnished. And so the person has remedies in law. And that is where you see that the person can go to court and seek those reliefs or those things that he thinks the court should assist him with as far as that publication is concerned.
Great.
In adding up to what Prince has said, I think the essential principle here is that the law gives all of us a host of rights. So we always have, or there are always circumstances where various rights accorded to various people are competing. So it is for that reason why Article 12.2 of our Constitution would say that human rights in itself are not absolute. So on the one hand, you are guaranteed to enjoy, or you have your freedom of speech, freedom of expression. On the other hand, the other person also has his right to human dignity. So the mere fact that you have your freedom of speech does not mean you should exercise those rights to usurp or to the detriment of the person's freedom of human dignity. So Article 12 is always instructive that human rights are not absolute and they are always subject to exceptions. And the law of defamation, strictly speaking, creates one of the essential exceptions in that regard. Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Angela, what form will defamation appear? How can we identify a defamatory statement?
Okay. So you can identify it by the content. As Prince said, it's statements or utterances that will cause people to be ridiculed or shunned by society, or something that would cause a right-thinking member of society to lower their estimation of you. So you have built your reputation over time, who you are. People know you as this, and someone says something that would cause people to look at you and maybe say, "Oh, I didn't expect this of Jasmine." Something that causes right-thinking members to think of you in a manner they ordinarily wouldn't. So it's sort of reducing your esteemed nature in the eyes of members of society. Yes. And it could come in written or spoken form. That's a simple way of identifying or distinguishing them. But it's not always that simple. So in law, we call the spoken generally slander and the written libel. But as I said, that's a simplistic way of
That's
distinguishing, which
that's
can, there are gray areas, if I may put it that way.
so they come in where I think we just see it as if it is written as opposed to oral. However, we should see it like the permanency of the defamation. So, in the discussions or in the various dialogues, defamation cannot only be written. Sometimes there's a painting, there's a portrait that is actually defamatory in itself. So I think libel has to do with defamation that has some permanency attached, and then slander is defamation that has some temporariness attached. And a lot of times the duty falls on the judge to decide whether the defamatory statement is going to be classified as a libel or as a slander. And I think in the recent case of the Kennedy Japan versus, no, Anas versus Kennedy Japan, the judge actually discussed this gray area that we shouldn't look at it simpliciter. And in his judgment, he actually classified it as libel, because for him, even though there were things said on radio and things, they have some permanency attached to them. Yeah.
Okay, so the permanent nature of it
Yeah.
is what describes
Yeah.
it. Now, Prince, what is the scope of defamation? And by that I mean, is it the case that every unpleasant statement, every unpleasant written word or spoken word is defamatory in nature?
Oh, not necessarily. Otherwise, you'll be clogging the right to freedom of expression. It will mean, one thing I realized is that whatever you say in this world, in this life, someone will not be happy about it. There's always someone who is not happy about something you are saying. So does that mean that the person would go to court to force you to retract, to apologize, and then to pay compensation for saying no? And so the law gives certain parameters within which we can say that certain publications are defamatory. The first thing is that you have to look at the words or the things that have been said. When you look at them ordinarily, are they defamatory? So if someone says that you are too tall, ordinarily, would you say that the person has said something that ridicules you? Would you say that it is something that lowers your estimation? Then, if it's yes, you look at the word and the context within which it was used.
Yeah.
I had one of these briefs that the guy said he was going to court. We asked him why. He said the other person he wants to take to court has written on Facebook that he's a settings man. So you see, if you really don't know what settings man means,
Prince, context is everything. Or
exactly, that's what I'm saying.
Settings man could mean a lot.
So you see, ordinarily, when you say settings man, what does it mean? It doesn't even make sense.
I'm about to even ask that.
But the context, settings man, like this is a hypocrite. He's been pretending that he is this, that he is not.
Okay.
This is a situation where the person is a marketer. So if you are calling him a settings man, people who want to bring deals to him for him to market, you say, then this person, some of the things he says are not believable, and so people will not even pay him
attention
attention
to
to
start
what
doubting
he
his
says.
marketing.
You are impairing the person's, earnings and profession and all those things.
Okay.
Yeah. So you look at the context within which the words were said or published. If you can construe the context as still defamatory. You are looking at what we call publication.
Okay.
Was it made public? Was it publicized? Was it something that was said to the hearing of a third person? And so you are looking at, if it was spoken, did the third person hear it? If it was written, did the third person read it? If yes, you tick the third box. Then the fourth one,
So on the third one, so a third person here is a person other than
other
the
than the
one the
two of
The
you,
two
the
statement.
of
one
you,
who
I
said it
see.
and
You
the
know,
person about whom it
Who it
was
was
said.
said.
there's
Okay.
And on that point, the there's the issue of consent.
Okay.
So if Prince says something defamatory about me to Derek, but I know Prince is going to say that to Derek, I have sort of consented to the statement he's making. So
yeah
even though he has made a publication to a third party, I allowed him to say
to
that. So
say
I can't
that.
turn around and go to court that Prince
Yes,
has defamed me to Derek when I consented to Prince
just said.
saying
Okay.
that. So even the third party, yes, someone other than the victim, but
There's an exception
there's an
to it.
exception to it.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
And you know, I was going to say that interestingly, there's a case where the publication was sort of made indirectly. By indirectly, I mean that it was a letter that was brought, and the person, the defamatory statements were contained in the letter, and that person's personal assistant, who I think in our part of the world will say PA, right, saw the letter, read the contents of the letter. At the end of the day, the decision of the court was that, yes, that amounts to publication. The most important principle the court set out was, if in the publication another person, that is a third party in this instance, gets to hear of it in the ordinary course of his or her duties. So in the instance of a PA, of course, if you're a PA, a letter comes, you have to receive the letter. So there's no way you can receive the letter without knowing the contents of it. Yes. On the flip side, if let's say you go and eavesdrop something and you bring it, then that requirement of a third party hearing is not
It's
satisfied.
not satisfied.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is where we even talk about republication.
Yeah.
I have heard Derek talking about Jasmine, and I am the third party in this regard. So Jasmine has to sue Derek for saying things about her to my hearing.
Yeah.
Then I go to tell Angela about it. I have republished or republished that particular publication or that statement. And so Jasmine can sue me and sue Derek.
There we go.
So all those things are there.
yeah.
But I just wanted to clear those ingredients or elements of the
Yeah,
the
as far as I'm
defamation.
concerned, I heard you talk about a statement. I heard you talk about publication
Yeah.
to a third party. I don't know if there are any others
Yes.
we should identify.
So
Oh yeah.
There's another.
there's another one, which would be that the defamatory statement must be made about the claimant or the person.
Reference.
Yes,
Must be in
it's
reference
yes,
to
in
the
reference
person
to.
who is
There must be
being
reference to that, and
Okay.
even if the reference is not necessarily direct, if it can be inferred from whatever has been said, that gleaning from everything you're talking about this person, then it's in reference to this person. Yes.
Okay.
So on the point of reference, there's something called innuendos.
Okay. I
And
think you
Prince
mentioned that.
mentioned something about that. You look at the context. So ordinarily, maybe I have not directly named Derek, but I say the boy in brown in the or something. I say something that only people in this room know Derek to be, or only people who are close to Derek. So in that case, there's no reference to Derek specifically in the statement I made, but we can infer from outside evidence or exchange outside facts, people knowledge that people have outside of the statement or publication I have made, that I am actually referring to Derek. Derek can take action against me because
Wow.
even though I have not specifically named him or described him or anything, what I used in talking about him is something that if Prince reads or sees, he will easily know I'm talking about
About
Derek.
Derek.
Yeah.
Yes, that can
That's
also be a form of reference.
reference. Okay. All right. Derek, I have a question for you. Uh, Can dead people be defamed?
Um, so defamation is such that the cause of action is personal, right?
Okay.
However, it's we glean it from the general circumstances. So, for instance, if it was a statement that someone made with respect to the dead person's family members,
Okay.
then it could be a class defamatory statement, and a person can bring an action even if the dead person is not necessarily alive.
Interesting.
But then in other jurisdictions, they actually have specific laws for defamation with respect to dead person. We do not have that yet as of now. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Prince, what is available for any person who feels that um, he's been defamed, some spoken words or some written words has sort of affected his image? What is available? Obviously, the person would go to court, I believe. I don't
Yeah.
know. Tell me what's available.
We always say that before you talk about defamation, you should assess yourself to know whether or not you actually have
A good
Any
any reputation
reputation.
skeletons,
at all.
any reputation at all.
Yes.
That's important.
If you don't have any reputation, how can someone even
That is so
soil
mean.
it? Uh-huh.
You can't put something on nothing and expect it to
Yes.
stand.
So if you assess yourself and you see or you come to a realization that of course you have some reputation to protect, then that is where you run to court. But normally we don't even go to court straight away.
Oh,
You
okay.
issue a warning,
All right.
or same way the person put out something, you call the person out that the person should come and apologize, retract. Sometimes you say you should apologize
Apologize.
profusely. So whilst apologizing, you should be sweating.
Profusely.
Profusely.
Profusely means you have to be on your knees.
And show that you are remorseful.
Exactly. And
Yes.
then you retract. Where the person fails to do that, then you go to court where you are asking the court to force him to retract. The court should force him to apologize through the same media that he defamed you, and then for wasting your time and then causing you all those injuries, the court should give you some compensation. That is what one politician termed as kwasia binti. I don't know if you heard something like that. I mean, he got some money because of a fool.
Yeah.
The person said something about him that he knew at the time was not true,
Yeah.
and he has taken him to court, and now he has gotten money. So he named that money that
Okay.
yes, meaning because of a fool he has gotten that
He's
money.
gotten
And
that
again,
money.
one other remedy you could get, or one other thing you could seek from the court is an injunction.
Okay.
You know, sometimes the defamatory statements, they keep coming. Yes. So you can quickly get an injunction to stop the person from making
further
the further publications. And obviously
See.
there are types. You can stop the person from making the publications during the pendency of the action. After judgment is given, you can seek as part of your reliefs that in perpetuity the person should not make such defamatory statements. But then the most important thing for me here is defamation does not protect. We must all understand that it does not protect your feelings. That distinction is very hard for people to make. That the fact that your feelings are hurt does not necessarily mean you've been defamed. As Prince rightly pointed out, if you do not have any reputation in the first place, or you do not have any standards in the eyes of right-thinking members of society, that standards cannot be lowered or taken away. So the thought does not protect anybody's feelings. Yes.
But you know, under customary law too, because of where we came from, feelings can also be protected. So,
Yeah.
for example, when you tell someone that you are a barren woman,
Yeah.
you are this, it may be true, but what is defamatory about it if you are even talking about just reputation alone?
Yeah.
But the person's feelings are hurt.
Yeah.
If you are going under customary law, the person doesn't have to even prove that he or she is hurt,
It's
which
hurt.
is the injury.
Yeah.
That's what we say. It is just actionable per se.
Yes.
It means that I don't have to prove any damages resulting from that publication.
Yeah.
If you say that someone is a thief, you have imputed crime.
Okay.
If you say someone is a prostitute, you are imputing immorality on the person.
Yeah.
You see, so those ones I don't necessarily have to prove that I have this reputation. If
Reputation.
I'm
Yeah.
going under customary law, my feelings are hurt.
Okay.
It will cause people to ridicule me. People maybe see me as this very gentle guy who doesn't even know how to take panache, 0.5%.
Just like me.
Just like you.
Yeah, just like me.
You can sing your own song sometimes. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, I hear on radio that someone is calling me an ashawu.
Oh my goodness.
You see, so
Yeah, we'll be shocked.
yes, it is the feelings that are hurt that customary law wants to protect. That's why if you are going under customary law, you are talking about feelings. Those ones you don't want to prove that you had this reputation, it has been injured, and that is why you are only saying that the person has said XYZ, they are hurtful. So the court should force that person to retract, apologize, and all those remedies they are talking about.
Yes. Then again, I think most times the courts are forced to rely on the common law
Yes.
when it comes to defamation because the personal law requirements under the Courts
And we
Act
don't want to
normally
open
is
the
we don't want to
floodgates.
open the floodgates. So
Yes.
they'll
Because there are
just-
various customs.
yes,
Yeah.
they'll
Right.
just play it safe and
Yeah.
just stick to the common law.
That's interesting. Angela, so I feel hurt about. Oh, you said I shouldn't use the word hurt. So I feel that
Your feelings are your
spoken-
own
I know,
problem.
a spoken word or a written statement is defamatory in nature. I sue you in court.
Not me, maybe Derek.
Derek, all right. I sue
Oh,
Derek.
she can sue me.
I
I like
sue
I like
Derek
going
in
to court, so
court.
she can sue me.
And how can you prove to the court that whatever statement you made about me were the right statements?
So I think Prince has mentioned a little bit about this. Truth is very important. If whatever I said or wrote or however I did the publication is something I can prove to be true, then it wouldn't be considered defamatory. It
Okay.
is only defamatory if I cannot prove it to be true, meaning it's false. And I can also say it was just my opinion, and that's what we call fair comment. I'm entitled to my opinion. I'm entitled to share my opinion as long as it's an honest opinion, not born out of malice, or I have not represented it as a fact to someone else. I wrote it or I said it specifically stating that this is just what I think about Jasmine. I'm not saying this is who Jasmine is. I'm not saying this is who I know or I have experienced Jasmine to be. It's just from personal encounters with her. This is who I think she is, and I make that very clear. Then I cannot be held liable for defamation.
Okay.
So I think my favorite defense is privilege. Yes. So I think we have qualified privilege and absolute privilege as a
And by
defense.
privilege, what do you mean?
Yes. So essentially, the law protects public policy. It is not every representation or statement that can be held strictly across. Yes. So things that happens in court. Assuming imagine a world where things you say in court or things you say in your pleadings and things like that, your court processes can be defamatory or could be defamatory. I don't think that's ideal. So there's actually a judicial decision, like a very recent one, where the court held that things such as judicial happenings, parliamentary happenings, I mean, imagine they're on the floor of parliament, everything a member of parliament
Oh,
says
we would
they're
have
going to
arrested
would
most
have
of them.
arrested
We
most of
have
them.
arrested most of them by
We would
Exactly.
now,
have
right?
also sued a lot of them for a
Yes,
lot of
yes.
money.
So those are just privileges
Okay.
that the law protects in the interest of the public and public policy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Interesting.
You
Interesting.
know, I know why he likes that.
Why does
Why
he
do I
like
like
the
that?
qualified privilege?
He he called one lawyer out in front of
Oh,
a client and even told the lawyer that his law is not good.
In court? Did he say that in court?
no, in fact, I'll sue him. Start drafting the writ.
Start drafting the writ. Oh, great. That's great.
Yes,
So,
because the privilege bit was interesting because there was a divorce petition and a lot of bad things happened in the
Okay.
petition. So one party felt they were defamatory, but essentially the court did not
the court
uphold
did
that
not
view.
uphold that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, in this era of social media, friends, there's WhatsApp, there's TikTok, and everyone is saying just anything. I mean, what should we advise the public? Because it seems everybody is free and saying anything about anyone
Yeah.
and thinking that it's all right to do that.
People think they can just hide behind their phones and say anything. Partly because some of them think they are not traceable. That his name is Kofi Mensah, but when you go to Facebook, his name is Mushosho Rice so and so, and so you look for his actual name, you won't get. You don't know his house, so that when you issue a rate, you'll be able to chase him and serve him. So they say anything. But what I tell people is that anytime you think that what you are doing nobody has seen, you should understand that there's someone whose job is just to find out things.
Find out things.
That person will find you out. Secondly, when we are publishing something, you should think about it twice and ask yourself whether if this gets to a third person, the person will be angry about it or will say it in a manner that may bring you trouble. Some people publish things innocently, but they are taken out of context. And in the era that social media doesn't forget, you say something and then all of a sudden, 3 years' time, it comes up. Maybe someone will not take you to court, but some of the things you say on social media may come to haunt you years to come. It may not necessarily be something that will cause you to be sent to court that you've defamed anyone, but it will actually soil your own reputation. And I think people should be, circumspect when they are talking about other people or talking about things that involve other people. It doesn't mean that you should be cowed, or it doesn't mean that because of that, when things come, you shouldn't express your opinion. There are so many ways of insulting people without necessarily using insulting words.
That's right.
Yes.
And to add to what Prince
Yeah.
said, this is for individuals, but for those who work in the media, like the
Journalists.
editors, the publishers, and even
Those who
content
create
creators.
content.
Yes. So usually you just hear one person's side of the story and then you go and publish. And then you don't distinguish that
And
this
they embellish it.
Yes, you add your own grammar. You want to make it interesting for your readers. You want to catch attention. You don't verify your sources, whether it's true or not, whether the other person has something to say in response. So, especially to those in the media, I would advise you to verify your sources. Whatever facts you are putting out there or whatever information you are putting out there, you make sure is the truth.
Very
And
useful.
if you are not sure is the truth, you are not sure whether you can verify, you make sure you don't state it as a fact. You distinguish between stating it as a fact and stating it as an opinion. And as much as you want to be catchy and try to get attention, you have to think about yourself and the consequences of whatever you put out there.
Yeah. Very useful.
No, the point Angela touched on is very important because I think in this social media age, there's always that temptation to just reproduce what you've seen.
Yes.
reposting.
Yes, no
They're
verification,
always sharing and
no
reposting,
checks.
eh?
People are just sharing. At least let's just all exercise some due care in how we talk about others, because trust me, it's very painful when you work very hard for a very good reputation and like society see you or society accord you a lot of high standards for only one person to just ruin it all. So
Two
we should
seconds
just be
is gone.
careful.
But I also think that for me, I would like the customary law because feelings, emotions are affected. Don't you think so, Prince? Because
Well, yeah, but you know, our society has grown. Now we have over 30 million. Our courts cannot even, manage
Accommodate.
the cases we have now.
Yeah.
Just
yes,
imagine, opening that floodgate. You cough and someone takes you there. You cough and someone takes you there. And I think it's also going to be one of the things that will really impede freedom of expression, especially the politicians. They will use that one to always scare people who talk about them because they
Yeah.
have the means to sue.
Well,
See?
maybe for them, it's just because in the eyes of the law gives them like a higher threshold. So you realize that with politicians, it's like you can just say anything about them and rarely, rarely.
yeah, especially on talk shows.
Occupational hazard.
Yes, you see the talk shows and you have a panel of politicians, or if it's something talking about entertainment, you have a panel, and they say a lot of things
Yeah.
on the panel. I mean,
You
do we
know,
just let that fly?
no, there's nothing more beautiful than, I mean, there's something else that's more beautiful, but there's nothing more beautiful than a discourse that is measured, a discourse that is circumspect, where everyone is speaking to facts, speaking to the position of the law without any disrespect whatsoever. I think that's how society should be shaped.
Well, and I notice these days many of the TV shows, some political program on TV, on radio, would always give a disclaimer.
Yeah.
What is that one about, Prince? Does it
Because
protect them?
they always want to disassociate themselves from any defamatory comments that people. That's why sometimes they force people to retract
There
or
and
apologize
then.
there and then. If
Okay.
you don't do it, they issue the disclaimer that we are not part of whatever he is saying. In that regard, the person has insulated himself
Okay.
from liability. If you take him to court, he will tell you that he disagreed with whatever happened there. So it's not like he provided the platform for the person to come and defame you. But if you don't do that, had it been criminal law, you would be abetting.
But
Okay.
strictly speaking, their duty does not end just after giving such disclaimers. I think sometimes they can just tell the person to stop, cut the show or something.
Cut the show or turn off the microphone or
Yeah.
something. Well,
Because of one insult, they should stop
they
the
should
show.
stop the show
They
and
should
turn off
stop.
the, turn off
Everybody,
the microphone.
everybody
and that
should
will
go
work.
home.
Anyway, Prince, Angela, and Derek, I think we've had a very interesting discussion on defamation. Viewers, I believe and hope that we have been able to educate you. So you must be careful the kind of statements you make, whether you write them or whether you say them, because it could be held against you. I think the most important thing we have learned today is that be sensitive and be cautious when you tend to make this statement. Otherwise, you'll be slapped with some big amount of money, which we call damages. So I have enjoyed today's show. I know you have. Have you?
Yes.
Very
Good,
much
great,
so.
great. So I would want to thank you. I'd also encourage you to like and subscribe our YouTube channel. Don't forget to follow all our social media handles. Your questions and comments will be well attended to. So we'll leave it for today and hope to see you another time where we'll discuss some other interesting topics. So thank you very much and do have a great weekend.